The dash cam didn't blink, didn't hesitate, didn't look away. It just sat there on the windshield like a bored witness, quietly recording the exact second a bad decision turned into a very expensive lesson. And yeah, that happened. I didn't know it yet, but that stretch of road was about to become the place where everything I believed about patience, restraint, and justice got tested all at once. It was just after 1 a.m., one of those late southern nights where the highway feels endless and your thoughts get louder than the engine, and all I wanted was to get home, crawl into bed, and remember what a normal life felt like. I'd just wrapped up months of work that kept me living out of duffel bags and cheap motels, pretending to be someone I wasn't, smiling at people who would have hurt me if they knew the truth. So, yeah, I was tired in a deep, bone-level way. I wasn't dressed like anyone important. No suit, no badge. Just a hoodie that had seen better days, gym shorts, old sneakers, driving my own car with the cruise control set a little under the limit because I know the math. You know what I mean? Not the speed math, the other math, the kind you don't learn in school, the kind that says you can do everything right and still get pulled over because someone decided you looked like trouble. The road was quiet, almost peaceful, until headlights popped up in my rearview mirror and closed the distance fast, riding so close I could barely see the hood, and I remember thinking, here we go, because you feel it before it happens, that shift in the air. I tapped my brakes lightly, just enough to say back off, and instead of space, I got a light bar, not even the full siren, just that quick chirp that says pull over now. I signaled, eased onto the shoulder, killed the engine, rolled down all the windows like I've done 100 times before. Hands on the wheel, fingers spread, posture, calm, cooperative, the whole script. And I watched the silhouette approach in my side mirror, big guy, heavy steps. The kind of walk that already tells you this isn't about a broken taillight. He didn't greet me, didn't explain the stop, just shoved a flashlight in my face and barked for my license and registration like he was talking to a dog. I kept my voice level, polite. Evening, officer. My license is in my back pocket, registration's in the glove box. I'm gonna move slow and grab them, okay? And that tone alone seemed to irritate him, like calm sounded disrespectful. He snapped back that he didn't need a narration, so I nodded and added the one thing I thought would slow everything down, for your safety and mine. I should tell you I'm federal law enforcement. My credentials are in the glove box with the registration. My service weapon is secured. You expect that sentence to change the temperature, right? Instead, he laughed, not a friendly laugh, more like a dare, and said something like, yeah, sure, and I'm the governor. Keep your hands where I can see them. That's when I knew logic wasn't invited to this conversation. His hand drifted toward his holster, and he ordered me out of the car, and in that moment, I did the calculation that probably saved my life because I could have fought him. I had the training, the size, the skill, but I also knew exactly how that headline would read if I moved wrong. So I unlocked the door, and the second it clicked, he yanked it open and grabbed my hoodie like he'd been waiting for permission to get physical. He dragged me out, shoved me against the hood hard enough to knock the air out of me, and started shouting commands I was already following, and when I tried to remind him my credentials were right there, he told me to shut up. Then came the classic move, the fake sniff, the lie that's older than both of us. You smell like weed, and I almost laughed because it was so obvious, but I didn't. I just said no, I don't, and I don't consent to a search. And that's when his voice dropped and he leaned in close and told me if I resisted, he'd light me up. The cuffs went on tight, not just secure tight, like he wanted me to remember. It twisted behind my back until my wrists burned and my hands went numb, click, click, double locked, and he shoved me toward the cruiser, listing off charges like he was building a sandwich impersonation, resisting DUI, whatever stuck. As he pushed me into the back seat, I looked straight into the dash cam and held eye contact because something in me knew this wasn't about getting out tonight, it was about proof. The ride to the station was quiet and tense, him driving like he was thinking fast. Me sitting back there cataloging every sound, every word, every vibration, because when you've been trained for this kind of pressure, you don't panic, you document even if it's just in your head. In the garage, the door slammed shut behind us, and the air smelled like bleach and old concrete. And I watched him huddle with a supervisor, hands moving, shoulders tight, the universal body language of someone saying, I messed up and I need you to help me hide it. The supervisor came over with a fake friendly tone and laid out the story they'd decided on: erratic driving, belligerence, refusal to cooperate. And then he offered me a deal, dressed up like a favor sign, a minor citation and go home, avoid a mugshot, avoid trouble, no harm, no foul. I saw it for what it was. Immediately a shakedown, because if I signed that paper, I admitted guilt. And if I admitted guilt, I lost any chance of telling the truth later. So I asked for my phone call, and the smile vanished, replaced by anger, and he ordered them to book me fully strip search the works because power hates being challenged even politely. The next hour was a lesson in small humiliations. Bright lights hands on me again. My things tossed into a bin. Shoelaces gone. Belt gone, hoodie string. Ripped out like fabric was dangerous. And when they asked my occupation and I said federal agent, the deputy smirked and told them to write unemployed. An older booking sergeant hesitated, looked at me, looked at him, and typed something safer, not brave, just not stupid. They took my mugshot and I stared into that camera like I was daring the future to remember this face. Then they locked me in a concrete box with a steel toilet and a bench and told me to wait. When the phone finally slid through the slot, I dialed my boss, and the second he heard where I was and what happened, the tone shifted, calm, cold, focused, telling me not to say another word, not to sign anything, that he was waking up the U.S. attorney and getting in his car. And for the first time that night, I felt the balance start to move. Morning came fast, and with it my boss walking into that station like a storm in a suit, slapping down a preservation order for every scrap of digital evidence, dash cams, radios, GPS, all of it. And suddenly everyone who'd been loud all night went quiet. 4 minutes later, I walked out the back, still in my hoodie and shorts, tired but upright, and when the sheriff tried to call it a misunderstanding, my boss shut that down with one sentence: "You don't get to erase this." It happened. From the outside, it looked like it ended their charges, dropped me back at work, the deputy still on patrol. Internal affairs clearing him with the same old excuses, camera malfunction, reasonable suspicion, and they probably thought I'd take the quiet win and move on. Part of me wanted to honestly, because carrying that night around in your chest is heavy, but then the official letter came saying no wrongdoing found, and my wife read it once and said they're doubling down, and she was right. I stopped asking nicely and called someone who knew how to get things done outside the system, and within hours I had the dash cam footage they said didn't exist, audio clear as day, every threat, every lie, the exact moment the deputy saw my credentials and decided to ignore them. That's when I made the call that changed everything, not to a lawyer, not to the county, but to a journalist who knew how to make noise, and I told her if this goes out, it has to go everywhere. The video went live on a Tuesday morning, and by lunchtime, it had more eyes on it than that deputy ever expected, people slowing it down frame by frame, lawyers breaking it apart online, strangers seeing themselves in that back seat, and the phones at the sheriff's office lighting up like a Christmas tree. The county tried to buy silence, slid a number across the table with a non-disclosure agreement attached, and I didn't even touch it because by then it wasn't about money, it was about making sure this didn't get buried. I told them no, NDA, public settlement, public accountability, and after a lot of panic and backroom calls, they agreed to a number that made headlines and hurt budgets, and suddenly reforms were announced, cameras, mandated policies rewritten, and the sheriff